Legacy matters in cinema. Last week, a U.S. judge allowed a James Bond fan to proceed with a lawsuit against MGM for failing to include the rogue 007 project's Casino Royale, the 1967 version, and Never Say Never Again in a complete box set of movies about the suave super spy. Lawyers for Mary L. Johnson, of Pierce County, Washington, argue that most reasonable people would expect these films to be included in a comprehensive collection of Bond movies. And they probably have a point, at least. In the case of Never Say Never Again, Never Say Never Again will always be part of Sean Connery's legacy as 007. The Scotsman returned to his most famous role in 1983, 12 years after his previous appearance in Diamonds Are Forever. Unfortunately, the film, directed by Irvin Kershner, was produced independently of official rights holder Eon Productions and regular Bond studio MGM, and has never been able to shake off the reputation as the black sheep of the series. In 1983, Eon and MGM were still bumbling along with a past his best Roger Moore, Connery's second replacement, as Bond. So it was hardly helpful for a competing 007 to arrive in cinemas, especially one battling classic villain Ernst Blofeld, Max von Sydow, and the evil forces of Spectre, just as the main series released the middling Octopussy. The early 80s Battle of the Bonds is instructive because it reminds us that the 007 producers have struggled to maintain quality levels at times. If Moore's Bond was firing on all cylinders, Never Say Never Again would not have been able to exploit available space in the public imagination for an alternate version. But by 1983, after a decade of increasingly tepid Bond films, fans were willing to forget that Connery hadn't been any good in the role since 1965's Thunderball either, and welcome him back with open arms. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. This week's news that Daniel Craig may be returning to Her Majesty's Secret Service will most likely prove just as popular. The actor is widely considered the best Bond since Connery in his 1960s heyday. But should he learn from his predecessor's mistakes? If Connery had signed off after his fourth turn in Thunderball, his run as 007 would be even more fondly remembered than it is. Instead, the spiky cool of the early Bond movies evaporated as the series indulged in increasingly over-the-top plots that moved away from Fleming's novels and added hokey one-liners.